There's a particular kind of pain that comes from being left without an explanation. No goodbye, no final conversation, no clear reason, just silence where answers should be. One day, someone is part of your life, and the next, they're gone, leaving you to piece together a story you were never allowed to finish. This kind of ending doesn't just hurt emotionally, it disrupts the mind. The brain craves closure because closure brings certainty. Without it, thoughts spiral. You replay conversations, search for hidden meanings, and blame yourself for things that may never have mattered. And the most unsettling part is not knowing whether the ending was intentional, careless, or calculated. Dark psychology offers an uncomfortable but revealing explanation. People don't always leave without closure because they're confused or unsure. Often they leave because silence protects them. It shields them from accountability, emotional discomfort, and vulnerability. And in some cases, it gives them power, whether they realize it or not. When someone disappears without explanation, it can feel personal, cruel, or even manipulative. But beneath the surface, it's usually driven by psychological mechanisms rooted in fear, avoidance, and self-preservation. Understanding these mechanisms doesn't excuse the behavior, but it does remove the illusion that their silence defines your worth. Today, we're going to explore why people leave without closure through the lens of dark psychology. Not to justify the pain, but to expose the truth behind it. Because once you understand the psychology of disappearance, the silence loses its power over you. One of the strongest psychological forces behind leaving without closure is avoidance. Confrontation requires emotional courage. It forces a person to explain themselves, to witness the impact of their actions, and to sit with discomfort. Many people are simply not equipped for that. Silence becomes the easiest escape. Dark psychology explains that avoidance isn't weakness, it's self-protection. When someone anticipates guilt, shame, or conflict, the brain looks for the fastest way to relieve that pressure. Disappearing offers immediate emotional relief. No conversation means no responsibility. No explanation means no accountability. There is also the fear of vulnerability. Explaining why you're leaving means revealing your true motives, doubts, or selfishness. It means being seen clearly. For people who rely on control or emotional distance, vulnerability feels dangerous. Silence allows them to leave while keeping their inner world hidden. In many cases, people don't leave because they don't care. They leave because caring feels overwhelming. Rather than processing complex emotions, they shut the door entirely. The person left behind is forced to carry both sides of the ending, while the one who disappears walks away lighter, relieved, and untouched by resolution. Another darker layer behind leaving without closure is the preservation of self-image. Most people want to believe they are good, reasonable, and justified. Giving closure risks shattering that belief. If they explain themselves, they may have to admit selfish motives, emotional inconsistency, or betrayal. Silence allows them to rewrite the story in their own mind, where they are not the villain. Psychology shows that people are more motivated to protect their identity than to be honest. When faced with the choice between truth and comfort, many choose comfort. Disappearing avoids the mirror. It allows them to walk away without confronting who they were in that relationship or what they failed to communicate. There's also the illusion of control. By withholding closure, the person who leaves maintains psychological dominance over the situation. They decide when the connection ends, how it ends, and whether it's ever acknowledged again. The unanswered questions left behind create a power imbalance. One person moves on, while the other remains stuck searching for meaning. This isn't always conscious manipulation, but the effect is the same. Silence keeps the emotional door half open, trapping the other person in uncertainty. And uncertainty is one of the most powerful psychological stressors the human mind can experience. For the person left behind, the lack of closure creates a psychological loop that is difficult to escape. The mind seeks resolution, and when none is given, it tries to create its own. This is why people obsess, overanalyze, and replay memories late at night. The brain is trying to finish a story that was cut off mid-sentence. Dark psychology explains that unresolved endings trigger anxiety more intensely than painful truths. Knowing why someone left, even if the reason hurts, allows the mind to process and move forward. Silence denies that process. It keeps emotions suspended, neither resolved nor released. This is why being left without closure often hurts longer than being openly rejected. There is also a deep sense of rejection tied to silence. When someone leaves without explanation, it can feel like your emotions weren't important enough to be acknowledged. This perceived invalidation strikes at self-worth, making people question their value, judgment, and reality. The pain isn't just about loss, it's about being erased without recognition. Over time, this can change how people relate to others. Trust becomes harder. Emotional safety feels fragile, and the fear of being abandoned without explanation lingers, shaping future connections in quiet but powerful ways. Another uncomfortable truth revealed by dark psychology is that leaving without closure often benefits the person who disappears. It allows them to avoid emotional consequences while still preserving access, at least psychologically. By not closing the door clearly, they leave room for return without accountability, apology, or explanation. This ambiguity can create a false sense of hope in the person left behind. Hope delays healing. It keeps people emotionally available to someone who has already chosen absence. From a psychological standpoint, this is one of the most damaging effects of no closure. It traps the mind between past attachment and present loss. Silence also removes consequences. When someone explains themselves, they risk being confronted, questioned, or judged. When they vanish, there is no dialogue, only distance. Dark psychology shows that many people choose disappearance because it allows them to exit without emotional cost, even if that cost is transferred entirely onto the other person. Eventually, the person left behind is forced to confront a difficult reality. Closure was never something the other person intended to give. And recognizing that truth, while painful, becomes the turning point where the power of silence begins to weaken. When people leave without closure, it feels like the ending was stolen from you. But dark psychology reveals something important. Closure was never in their control to begin with. It was a choice they avoided, not a truth you failed to deserve. Their silence is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their inability to face discomfort, accountability, or emotional depth. Understanding this changes the narrative. You stop chasing answers from someone who chose absence over honesty. You stop replaying moments, searching for hidden meanings that were never there. And slowly, you realize that the lack of closure was the answer. It revealed their limits, their fears, and their emotional immaturity more clearly than any explanation ever could. True closure doesn't come from a final message, an apology, or a conversation that never happened. It comes from accepting that some people leave the way they live, avoiding responsibility, choosing silence, and protecting themselves at the expense of others. Once you accept this, the psychological grip of their disappearance loosens. Dark psychology doesn't teach us to become cold. It teaches us to become aware, and awareness is power. When you understand why people leave without closure, you stop internalizing their silence and start reclaiming your peace. Because in the end, the strongest form of closure is realizing that you don't need anything from someone who already chose to walk away.